For 2 years, the rule was simple. If you wanted the best code, you paid a closed lab. That rule just broke. A free open-weight model walked into the room where GPT-5.5 and Claude Opus 4.8 live, and on real coding work, the messy multi-file for factor, the whole thing kind. It stopped losing. On one tool used benchmark, it actually beats Claude. This is Kimi K2.7 Code. 1 trillion parameters open weights free to download tonight. And the strangest part, it wins while thinking 30% less. Let me show you how. First, what is it? Kimi K2.7 Code is Moonshot AI's coding specialist, and the word that matters is Agentic. A chatbot hands you a snippet and walks away. This thing acts. It plans the task, opens your files, writes the code, runs it, reads the error, and fixes itself, looping until the job is actually done. And it's tuned for the hardest version of that loop, what engineers call long horizon work. Not one function, a whole feature, start to finish. Big claims need receipts, so let's start with a raw coding skill against its own last version. K2.6, the jump is steep, Kimi code bench. 51 to 62, program bench, 48 to 54, Mully's day bench lead, 27 to 35, nearly double. Now the real test, stack it against the giants. And here's the honest part, GPT-5.5 and Opus 4.8 still lead on pure code. Around 69, K2.7 Code is right on their heels. Not ahead, but hold that thought because there's an asterisk on those two. Closed, paid, locked behind an API, this one you download for free. Writing code is only half the job. The other half is whether the model can actually drive the tools, the terminal, the function calls. A plan that holds across a dozen steps without falling apart. This is the Agentic suite, and here the story flips. MCP Mark Verified measures tool calling correctness. Did it call the right tool the right way every time? Watch the number, Claude. Opus 4.8, a frontier lab, billions in funding. Scores 76.4. K2.7 Code, the free one, scores 81.1. It doesn't trail Claude here. It beats it. An open model you can download just out-tooled. A closed frontier model on the metric that decides whether an agent works in the real world. That should make at least 3 companies in the real world. And that win isn't a fluke on one chart. Claude 24/7's climbs 43 to 47. Meeple Atlas 69 to 76. Step back and it's a roughly 10% agentic gain over K2.6 in a single generation. Terminals, function, calls, multi-step plans. The whole toolbox got sharper at once. Benchmarks are one thing, but what does it feel like to actually work with? Most models are sprinters. Ask for one function, great. Ask them to build a feature across 6 files, refactor a crusty old module, and chase a bug through a long debug session. And they drift. They forget the plan. They contradict the code they wrote 10 minutes ago. K2.7 Code was trained for that marathon, not the sprint instruction following that holds across thousands of lines. It doesn't just start the task, it finishes it. That's the line between actoid and a teammate. Here's the part that should not be possible. Smarter models usually think harder, more reasoning, more tokens, slower answers, bigger bills. That's the trade-off everyone accepts. K2.7 Code just broke it. It scores higher than K2.6 while burning about 30% fewer thinking tokens. The old one brambles its way there. The new one cuts straight to it, thinks less, chips more and fewer tokens. Isn't just elegant, it's faster replies, lower cost per task, and more real work packed into the same budget. Efficiency isn't a side effect here, it's the feature. So how is a trillion parameter model also fast? Here's the trick. Think of it as a company with 1 trillion parameters on the payroll, but only 32 billion clock in for any given token. That's a mixture of experts. Every token hits a router, and the router's only job is to ask, who handles this? It looks at 384 specialist experts, picks the 8 best for this exact token, and adds 1 shared expert that's always on call. The next token, a different 8. The other 900 plus billion parameters stay home, asleep, burning nothing. That's how you get frontier-sized knowledge at a fraction of the compute. You pay for 1 trillion, but you only ever run a sliver. 2 design choices are worth a line each. Across 61 layers and 64 attention heads, it uses mean the O attention, a leaner way to remember the conversation. So a long context costs far less memory and swagwag nations. The gate that lets each layer decide what's worth passing on more cleanly than the old approach. 160,000 token vocabulary, plus a bolted-on vision anchor, modern parts, all pointed at one goal, more signal, less waste. Sit with that ratio, 1 trillion parameters of capacity, but only 32 billion fire per token. About 3% awake at any instant. It's an iceberg. The 32 billion is the tip above the waterline. Doing the work right now, the trillion is the mass below, all that knowledge, ready but not burning, a watt until it's called. That's the whole magic trick, huge and efficient. It also holds a lot in its head at once, a 256,000 token context window. That's not a paragraph or a file. That's a small code base. All at once, your source files, the docs, the long error logs, the whole conversation loaded into working memory together. And for long horizon coding, this is the entire game because you cannot refactor what you cannot see. Most models squint at one file. K2.7 Code keeps the whole repo in view. And one thing almost everyone misses, it has eyes. Bolted on his MoonViT, a 400 million parameter vision anchor, so you can hand K2.7 Code a scront, a Figma mockup, a diagram, a stack trace dialog, and it turns those pixels into code. Stop describing the pixels into code. Stop describing the picture. Code to conceive is code that ships a lot faster. One honest caveat, because it changes how you use it. K2.7 Code is a specialist, not an all-rounder. It's tuned for coding and agents, and it always thinks there's no thinking off switch. Try to turn reasoning off, and you're quietly handed to the generalist, K2.6. Instead, so the rule's simple. Deep coding, refactors, agents, long sessions, that's K2.7 Code. General writing, quick chat, fast, non-thinking answers. That's K2.6. Right tool, right task. So how do you get your hands on it? 3 doors, door 1, Kimi Code at Kimi.com/code, where K2.7 Code is the default and thinking is always on. Plans start around $19 a month. Quotas refreshing weekly. Door 2, the raw API at platform. Per minute Illion tokens. Input runs 19 cents on a cache hit, 95 on a miss. Output $4 full, 256K context. And door 3, the one that matters most. The weights are open on Hugging. Feel free to disout them. Run them on your own hardware. No API, no permission needed. So here's where this leaves us, a free, open, weight, trillion parameter coding agent that's neck and neck with the closed frontier on code. And head of Claude on tool use, 81 to 76, 30% leaner thinking. It sees pixels. It holds a whole code base in its head. For 2 years, the best code lived behind a paywall. That wall just developed a very large crack. If this changed how you think about open models, subscribe. We break down the frontier the day it ships. See you in the next one.